Count this as whatever you want, a spoiler for my upcoming anniversary videos, or a shameless plug, or both, but the Great Northern Railway Class J13 holds a special nostalgic place in my memory, as it was one of the first engines I got for my model railway collection, mainly because it looked nice with its livery and quasi-pannier but not quite appearance. My original Hornby model was a delightful little tank engine, but those memories left me vulnerable to Rapido's new tooled announcement of the class in late 2023. At first, I resisted, but upon remembering how much I saw the preserved engine 1247 at the National Railway Museum on my post-university exam visits, I eventually caved and pre-ordered the exclusive model of the preserved engine from Locomotion Models. Nostalgia had set me back another £165. A lot for a tank engine I've never ridden on or seen running. Just over 2 years later, the model has now arrived in my grown-up mitts for me to get my teeth into all over again. It came in a delightful box that in itself is just something I enjoy seeing. But before I'd even opened it, a rattle inside told me something was amiss. The product code for the Museum Condition edition of 1247 is 958014, and the back of the box includes a background of the class and the preserved engine. Inside was a handy little instruction book which detailed how to remove the body, fit a decoder, service the plunger pickups, and fit the extra details, among which is the bell that can only be found with this exclusive model. Speaking of, here is the accessory bag with the bell, fireman's tools, and various different choices of couplings. And here is what I thought I could hear. One of the buffers was loose and nowhere near a buffer beam. It had come from the rear, and thankfully appears to have simply become unglued instead of being snapped off, but it did leave some messy paint residue in its wake. That doesn't reflect well on the quality control of Rapido. Though this could have happened as this was being packed up after a quality assessment, I might be able to make do and mend, depending on whether I find anything else wrong with the Loco. Outside of the packaging, everything else is looking much more promising. This model definitely looks like an upgrade in almost every way from my childhood model. The Great Northern Green looks as exquisitely applied, lined and finished with a matte to satin effect, as I saw on Rapido's Stirling single engine. The tooling as well features a lot of fine looking rivets and other details, all of which were missing on my Hornby one to an extent. Separately fitted parallel sprung buffers, lamp irons, smokebox door dart, handrails, and other details are all picked out in their appropriate colours. This exclusive edition does feature some decoration and tooling differences from others in Rapido's J13/J52 range. It has an extra brass plate on the front splasher, as well as subtly different positioning of the lining on the sides of the tank and on the wheels. The coupling rods also look chemically dulled in keeping with the museum accurate decoration, and I especially like the boiler rings detailed even underneath the saddle tanks. Curiously, no etched builder's plates were included, a missed opportunity given this exclusive comes with extra brass plates. Printed on, not etched. The dark green edging atop the tank is also unique to this edition, I believe, as is the rear bunker lining, where we can see that missing buffer in all its absent, broken glory. Unfortunately, there are a few other drawbacks with the model that I noticed. By contrast to a lot of other details, the dome and its fit make the top of the model feel very toy-like with that wide gap. I have no idea why Rapido went down this route with the dome. Many models, past and present, have avoided such an obvious join of parts. The funnel join as well looks unpleasant up close, but from normal viewing distance it looks fine to me. So that gets a pass, but the dome does not. Some flashing remnants blot the rodding on this side of the model as well, and on the other side, by the rods near the cab, I noted a very minor amount of spray beneath the saddle tank, either from glue or paint. It was hard to get a photo of. A very, very minor blemish was spotted on one side of the tanks as well, but you'd only notice it if you were looking stupidly hard, like I was. The cab though shines, inside and out, in its decoration and detailing. And on the rear there is a decent coal load and separately fitted window railings that look largely neat and straight. Inside the coal bunker is where the speaker is housed, freeing up space inside the engine for a promising mechanism composed of a CAN motor, flywheel and firebox LED. Underneath we find the brake rigging already fully attached and part of the base plate moulding, and proper NEM pockets are provided for the tension lock couplings. In between the frames is a wonderfully modelled rendition of the inside motion, though it is only visible from certain angles. On the scales, the J13 came in at 223 grams, which is quite hefty for an 060. It's almost a third heavier than my recent Bachmann Stanley. Much of that can be put down to the die-cast chassis block within the main engine body. The back-to-back wheel gauging came in at a surprising 14.8mm for the most part, which is quite a bit off the standard 14.4 to 14.5. I'm not sure how this was missed by Rapido quality control, and I had to re-measure to see whether I'd measured correctly. I'm hoping this doesn't impact the running massively because I read the calipers right the first time. On the whole, this is a lovely engine, but it is not up to par with what I've received from Rapido in the past, or even this year. The damaged buffer was a massive letdown, as were the few other blemishes and concerning wheel gauging. I hope the issues are only cosmetic, so let's test that by getting this down onto the track. Straight out of the box, the J13 had a smooth, slow startup in forwards and reverse. It was very consistent, with only the smallest amount of jerking. Here it is again. Turning the controller up brings it to life nicely, and it has the range to really go all out if one wishes. It's more than slow enough for its intended purpose as a shunting and freight engine though. On to the points test. In forwards motion there were no problems, but in reverse the J13 stalled. It hasn't been run in yet, but forwards over the same section was fine. It appears to be getting caught on both of the dead insulfrog zones. The wheelbase may be just annoyingly long enough that it does that at slow speeds. Turning up the controller does seem to give it just enough momentum to slip through. If you have a small length of track between points, you might avoid this, as would anyone using electrofrog points. After some running in, the reverse traversal of points did seem to begin improving. There were no issues with traversing baseboard joins, even at the slower speeds. The firebox LED works on DC, but does not have a flickering effect. With the main tests out the way, let's do a test lap on the layout. It sounded like something caught on that first crossing, but it made it over that, the curved board join, the rear board join, and the second curved join and crossing. The wheel gauging issues don't seem to have flummoxed it at any point. So the Rapido J13, despite its 14.8mm wheel gauging, went around the layout nice and smoothly and slowly. To see whether it's moving at a true scale speed, I'm going to hand the engine over to my train racing driver. Some say that he once crashed a train due to caterpillars on the line, and that he became known as an impressive warrior after the Battle of Saxby. All we know is he's called the Grunt. There he is, poking out the cab side window, either keen to get going or keeling due to a hangover. And off the J13 goes at 50% speed on the controller, quite leisurely out of the station and over the first crossing. It goes onto the second baseboard and begins a stroll down Deltic Pass without a hint of drama. The J13 swings by the farm and the haunted house, where it crosses the road again and heads back towards the station, and across the line. So the Rapido J13 did the lap in 24.32 seconds, which is a scale speed of 41.5 miles an hour. So it's fairly well geared, but despite how slow it looked, it is still a tad on the fast side. The real life-ish top speed is about no more than 50 miles per hour, if the little information Google's AI pulls together is to be believed. A load will dampen the speed slightly, so this is only a minor point, and it's all down to preference how you choose to run your model anyway. The engine does go about as fast as other tank engines that have come to market in the last year or so, both bigger and smaller, so it's not really an outlier no matter how you cut it. Speaking of having this train under a load, it's time to test the couplings. I've got out the Locomotion Models exclusive LNWR Diagram 88 covered wagon, also by Rapido, and put a mixed train together behind it. We have a custom grain hopper wagon of mine that is carrying coffee granules, the LBSC open wagon, the Kerno exclusive, a Rapido 7-plank open wagon, a Bachmann plank open with coke rails, and a custom brake van of mine. It turns out I have very few pre-grouping liveried brake vans. That coupled okay by the looks of things. Let's have a quick test. Yep, all is well. And off the J13 goes with a small goods train. Exactly the kind of work it was designed to do. Once again, Rapido have attempted and largely delivered a top-notch, stunning loco in terms of looks and how it runs, both of which are great for the most part. But in this instance, it was let down by a few quality qualms that, with a bit more care and attention, could easily have been avoided. Rapido have had a lot of new models arrive recently, and we know one kind was getting far more attention during QC due to more glaring issues. So the issues with my model may have gone under the radar or occurred due to haste. That shouldn't really happen, and I hope that it doesn't repeat. My other Rapido models are fantastic, and nothing here has made this model strictly unusable. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt based off of all my experiences so far. On to my final verdict. Decoration. The livery and its application are stunning in colours, execution and finish. This looks like the J13 I saw at the NRM over and over, except it now fits in the palm of my hand. If Rapido excel at one thing in particular, it's how their engines look. I'm over the moon with the look of this one. Details and features. Minus the one loose buffer that got away, everything else on the model was largely to my liking. There's plenty of coupling options offered, brake pipes and brake rigging come pre-fitted, and there's even the bell to fit atop the tanks. Some etched plates would have sweetened the deal, but overall I'm happy with what was supplied. Quality. This is where this model stumbled. The loose buffer, associated paint damage, mild flashing on the rodding, and slight spray and blemishing on the tanks all add up to dullen my enthusiasm on the model's quality. The die-cast chassis block, flywheel, and other features were all excellent inclusions. I cannot give the quality point because of that dislodged buffer on arrival. It was an easy fix, but shouldn't have happened in the first place. I'm withholding the quality point here. Performance. This was less of a mixed bag, but still a bit mixed. Overall, it was satisfactory. The model crawled up to speed well enough and ran in forwards and reverse. Over points, forwards was fine, but it was stuttery and stopped dead over a couple of my Insel Frog points, though this improved with running in and was only an issue below a certain speed. Baseboard joins were no problem, but as slow as the model was, the gearing was still not quite to scale speed. Only the iffy point performance in reverse really caused a concern, and could be fixed with a bit of wheel re-gauging perhaps, though this didn't affect my model as much as anticipated. I'll give the performance point as it did not falter to a point that really hacked me off, to be fair. I'm still happy with it. And finally, onto price. At £165, this is on par with the new tooled Hornby J13s and J52s, but as I haven't seen those in the flesh, I can't comment on how they compare. What I can say though is that as lovely as this exclusive Rapido model is, with the less than perfect quality and not quite perfect performance, it doesn't offer as much value as I hoped I would get for the price. As the most expensive standard gauge tank engine I've ever bought, I expect immaculate running and quality, and while I received a fantastic looking engine, I didn't get that full package I was after. I'm not giving Rapido the price point today as I'm not 100% happy with this. It certainly has many merits, but not all of them. Overall, that's a score of 3 out of 5, making this a model I can recommend with caveats. If you get an example that's of better quality than mine and with more precise wheel gauging, you'll be onto a winner. What hamstrung my model won't affect them all, it's just unfortunate for me. So what do you think of Rapido's J13/J52 locomotives? I'm glad I got mine, and there's not enough wrong with it to justify the expense or carbon footprint of a return. I've glued the broken buffer back into place, which was actually quite a tight fit and makes me wonder how it came out to begin with. Anyway, I'll keep an eye on the performance to see if the kinks iron out in time. That's the first of a flurry of reviews I'm hoping to do this month, on top of all my upcoming anniversary content. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video. Take care.